I found my wife's affair tracker spreadsheet, and I don't know what to do about it. Is there any way to salvage this relationship? By Redditor Lighting Nations. I found the secret laptop while Shauna was in Dublin. She worked as a forensic analyst, which meant she got called all over the country to examine crucial evidence. Since I was by myself, my parents invited me over for some lasagna, and when I got home, the TV and all our valuables were gone. Some bastard had worked a downstairs window out of its frame and ransacked the place. Over the phone, a disinterested police dispatcher explained they'd send an office over in a few days' time, if at all. A steady stream of missing persons cases had been plaguing our dull little town, which meant my stolen Spocks got pushed way down the list of priorities. Whoever swiped Shauna's piggy bank also shivered her bookcase off the wall, far enough that you could see a loose section of skirting board poke its head out. Behind the wooden plank there was this little hidden nook, and inside the nook, there was a Dell laptop. My spidey senses got set tingling alright. No doubt there'd be some security software installed. Shauna's OCD made her meticulous in the extreme. I'd learned the hard way that, unless I wanted to start World War III. Our personalized bath towels needed to be carefully folded so that the S and A appeared in the exact middle. Talk about meticulous. Fortunately, I had 10 years' experience in IT security. That's actually how Shauna and I met. While she analyzed hair follicles from a crime scene, I bypassed the encryption on a hard drive found at a suspect's apartment. I outsmarted the tracking program by booting Shauna's machine in safe mode. Under recent files there was a spreadsheet containing rows of men's code names, and notes about their hobbies, conversations my wife had with them, and even their sexual preferences. She chatted with one fella about Pokemon, another tattoos. Listed as currently active, she'd marked an individual from Dublin. My mind grasped for a reasonable explanation, finding none. As a gorgeous brunette with killer curves, Shauna had zero problems attracting attention from men. For her to capitalize on it, though, after 6 years of marriage? This kicked up a hornet's nest of anxiety in me alright. Throughout my university years, I dated a murderer's row of toxic women who tore my self-esteem to shreds. They were drawn to me like moths to a flame. Trapped under the weight of darkening thoughts, I hauled my sorry ass over to the Garrick, this real dive bar on the outskirts of town. That's where I met Alice. The freckly redhead slid in next to me, so close our thighs touched, and said, "Those are some big shoulders you've got there." My wedding ring immediately disappeared inside my pocket. Alice had some muscle from hauling haystacks around all day. 3 pints into our conversation, she pushed her lips up against my ear and whispered, "Come back to my farm, I'll take you for a pony ride." That steamy proposal reverberated throughout my entire body. Still, I couldn't take her up on the offer. Not with the pain so fresh. Undeterred, the flirty lady scribbled her number onto a napkin, along with directions to her homestead. "Take the west link until you hit a little bridge, then you'll come across a fenced-off field holding in a bull with the biggest balls you've ever seen. Go north from there." I staggered home, my chest swollen with pride. I was a catch. A man of value. And I wasn't going to take this betrayal sitting down. Since Shauna's spreadsheet avoided any identifying information, I used what few details there were on her latest entry, competed in triathlons, owned a coffee shop, collected exotic fish, to conduct a little online sleuthing. My Google foo led me to a Facebook post from a bistro called The Thirsty Fox. To raise money for the Irish Heart Foundation, the manager ran 30 marathons in 30 days, and images of a 50-gallon freshwater tank clogged his social media accounts. This was Shauna's side piece alright. Still fresh despite the restless night, I jumped in my Volvo and sped along the M1, 30 miles over the limit. As rolling green hills whizzed past the side windows in one prolonged blur, a plan formed in the back of my mind. Oh sure, I could have fired off a text, found the spreadsheet. "We're through." Bitch, but what fun would that have been? I bit down on the temptation to storm this guy's workplace and dropkick the customers all Zangief style. From working in close proximity with experienced detectives, I'd absorbed a few social engineering tricks through pure osmosis. Situations like these called for a little savvy. After a quick pit stop in Exotic Aquatics, I pulled up outside the coffee shop. A bell jingled above the door as, fish bag in hand, I strolled up to the counter. The lady working the register's name tag read Lee. "I've got a package for Ronan," I said, my voice all innocent. "That's my manager. He must have put his work address in by mistake." When I asked whether she could give me his home one, she hesitated. Right then and there the plan almost blew up in my face, because the friendly barista grabbed a phone off the counter and punched in her boss's number. He's not answering. Too busy romancing Shauna, no doubt. Swallowing my anger, I held up the bag. Oh bollocks. Blue tangs don't do well in cramped spaces. Another hour, and this poor fella's going belly up. She pushed out her bottom lip and then gave me Ronan's address. The bastard lived in a 2-story townhouse at the end of a remote lane, a secluded spot away from prying eyes. I'd been so overwhelmed by the rage I didn't think my plan through. What happened if the lovebirds booked a hotel room? That way they'd leave the wrinkled bedsheets for a maid to clean up. Right as my heavy eyelids drooped shut, a headlight filled the rearview mirror. As a silver Mercedes sped past, I crouched low in my seat. It pulled into Ronan's driveway, then the super seducer himself stepped out. Like a perfect gentleman, he walked around the hood and opened the door for his date, my wife. To think, if I'd only busted them right then and there, Shauna might have played off the encounter as your everyday vanilla affair, and this whole disaster would never have happened. But I wanted to go further. Would Ronan call the police? Maybe. For a first-time offender like me, though, you're talking suspended sentence. A gentle slap across the wrists. A downstairs light flicked on. 10 minutes drifted by. 20. Enough time for some wine? To show off those LCD lights on the fancy fish tank? The light blinked off. A minute later, an upstairs one switched on, then off again. Go time, maybe. The front door refused to budge, however around back a window sat on the snip. With some gentle coercion, the latch popped open, and I slid through the narrow gap backwards. My right foot lowered onto the kitchen counter, into a giant tower of grimy dishes piled up in the sink. Metal cutlery got set clanging against the floor. I froze, my foot hovering in place. There was no sound except for an army of buzzing flies, louder than traffic. No rapid footsteps overhead, no frightened voices. Talk about the luck of the Irish. Maybe it was the sweaty, unwashed Jim Clear in the washing basket, or the refuse sacks overflowing with rotted chicken, or the stench of stagnant water drifting down from the filthy fish. No doubt a breeding ground for bacteria, but all this was just salt in the wound that was Shauna's infidelity. She once made me sit through a 20-slide PowerPoint presentation about how to correctly rinse a kitchen sponge after use, yet she snuck around with this hoarder. Whose kitchen floor had so much grime that you could practically skate from one end to the other? I tiptoed up the stairs. Down the hall and to the left, muffled voice blasted through the door. This was it. I took a slow, steady breath, twisted the handle, and pushed my way inside. The moment was everything I wanted it to be, big and loud and dramatic. I'd planned on yelling a nice tagline, possibly even a Microsoft Excel-related joke, but when I saw what was in there, my throat hitched shut. Ronan lay on the bed all splayed out, his toned ass cheeks facing the roof, his wrists and ankles secured to mahogany bedposts by metal handcuffs, a plastic bag draped over his skull. Secured around the neck by a belt wrapped tighter than a python. Shauna hovered over him with her hair pulled into a bun. In her gloved hand, there was a bottle of antibacterial spray, and she was hard at work scrubbing the bedside table with a cloth. As I stood there, jaw gaping open, Loverboy lay motionless. Oh fuck. That wasn't an affair tracker spreadsheet. I'd burst into the room 5 seconds after the poor bastard suffocated to death. With a deer caught in a giant headlight look, Shauna looked at me and said, "Alan." Terrified, confused, I backed into the hall on legs which could barely support my weight. She took a single step forward. "Now I know what you think." I didn't wait for her to finish, just barreled down the steps. At the front door, my shaky, sweaty, awkward hands fumbled with the lock. Within seconds I was outside in my Volvo, heart slamming against my chest, my bare foot against the accelerator because I'd lost a shoe amidst the wild scramble to safety. I needed to go to the police, to tell them everything. The spreadsheet. The belt. Everything. 2 miles out I pulled into a lay-by. Before I could make the call, though, my phone lit up with a smiling picture of Shauna. I hit accept, my hand still trembling. I know this is a total dose, and you've probably got a million questions right now, but don't do anything rash. Did you murder him? The word murder felt strange in my mouth, strange and radioactive. Yes. There was a long, uncomfortable pause. How did you track me down? She asked. I found your spreadsheet, I said. I'm turning it over to the police. Do that and you're going to jail. What? Why would I go to jail? I'll say Ronan and I were just knocking boots until you burst in like a lunatic and strangled him. That's bullshit. And besides, I've got the laptop. If the detectives got their hands on that, they could close the book on about 20 missing persons cases. She expelled a long, weary sigh. This is too much. Alan, I am not responsible for those. I don't shit where I eat. Why do I think I drove all the way to fecking Dublin? And second, I'm not some amateur. Look at my scenes and the deaths mark the deaths as accidental. Why are there scenes at all? What the fuck is wrong with you? It's the germs, Alan, she said, her voice raw with disgust. I can't stand them. You were there, you saw Ronan's house. The nasty fish tank and all that used gym gear. I could practically see the vapor fumes. She retched away from the receiver. I can't live with it, knowing all these fecking hoarders are out there swimming in their own filth, so I do the needful. And I'd have left without a trace if you hadn't come storming in and left your DNA all over the place. So if you tell anybody, you're going down. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got work to do. Click. Damn it. I'd unintentionally played straight into her hand by contaminating the crime scene. Plus, I'd shown my face at the coffee shop. A quick review of Ronan's bank accounts would reveal he never even ordered a blue tang. I needed time to set all this straight in my mind. Shauna might have already been on her way to our place, and my parents would no doubt know something was up straight away. So I drove in the rough direction of home until the fuel meter slid towards empty. At a service station, after filling up the tank, my hands rummaged around inside my pocket searching for my wallet. Instead, they found a napkin. Alice's napkin. What other choice did I have? I called her from the car. Hey, it's Alan. Look, I know it's late, and this is completely out of the, you're sure you don't mind? Okay, I'll see you soon. The West Link brought me to a bridge running over a narrow creek, then the headlights illuminated a giant field. Sure enough, beyond the chain link fence, there was a sleeping bull with the biggest balls you've ever seen. A narrow dirt lane cut through 2 rows of cornfields which made me picture Shauna's Excel sheet, all divided into neat, organized columns, each one a fresh victim. On the far side there was a rickety shack. Alice greeted me on the dusty porch wearing a dress not suitable for mass. Straight away I regretted this decision. Images of Ronan gasping for oxygen were swirling around inside my brain. I couldn't roll around in the hay with her, or anybody. Would my gracious host understand this, though? I grabbed the laptop and climbed out of the car. You look like you've been through the wars, she said, as I followed her inside. You have no idea. She threw me a cheeky wink. Let's see if I can't take your mind off things. Already on the verge of tears, I explained this wasn't that sort of visit, my voice getting all choked up with emotion. She pressed a finger against my lips. Don't say another word. It's okay. I followed her into the lounge where I planted myself on a floral-patterned sofa and rubbed my eyes. When's the last time you ate? She asked. A wave of wooziness hit me as I realized I hadn't slept or ate for an entire day. I can't remember. I'm gonna grill you a steak. Now running on fumes and a complete wreck, I booted the laptop, hotspotted my phone, and searched through articles about our town's missing persons cases. since bereaved families didn't typically write our son collected metal lunchboxes and had a body-piercing fetish, I couldn't match them up with the spreadsheet. Would some outstanding detective work crack the code? Possibly. In the meantime, though, a distraught Shauna would give interviews on RT News, hysterical about her husband's wild temper. She had me snookered. Alex carried a juicy steak and a glass of red wine into the room and set them on a low table. "Here, have some wine." "Thanks." I took a long swig, those fizzy bubbles melting in my mouth. Fruity, crisp, delicious. Maybe, after a decent night's rest, a solution to this awful mess would present itself. Out of nowhere the room shuddered violently, like a plane battling turbulence. My window of vision grew smaller and smaller, receding into this dark, long, endless tunnel as Alice's gleeful voice came ricocheting toward me. Nighty-night. When I woke up, it felt as though a gallon of expired mayonnaise was festering in the pit of my stomach and I couldn't budge a single inch. I strained my eyes to look down. I was bullock naked and tethered to a wooden chair by several lengths of rope. When I thrashed around, the restraints bit deep into my wrists, ankles, and neck. I blinked away some of the brain fog and surveyed my surroundings. Up ahead, there was a workbench covered in tools. Dangerous appliances were mounted across the wall on the far side: circular saws, scythes, drills. The only light came from a naked bulb dangling from the roof, and high above my skull, up in the rafters, wings fluttered about. The scent of motor oil and manure flooded my nostrils, making my stomach even queasier than before. Only when I tried to say, "Hello," did I realize there was a ball gag over my mouth. Alice's grinning face leaned into my sight line. "Oh, you're awake. Fantastic. We can get started." Dressed in black lingerie, she swung her legs over my thigh and straddled my lap. "This is my favorite part," she said, as her soft hand caressed my cheek, explaining what's about to happen. I screamed through the gag. She covered my neck in a flurry of little kisses. "Now don't go kicking up a fuss. There's nothing anybody can do to save you now." She got off my lap and walked over to the wall where, like a hostess on The Price is Right, she presented the tools one by one. "What do you say we pick out some toys?" The coy minx grabbed a rake off its mount, studied it, and then shook her head. On and on this went until, finally, she spider-walked her fingers across a set of bolt cutters. "Oh yeah." Blood thumped in my ears, loud and harsh, as she shuffled back toward me. I screamed and screamed, my voice all muffled, until she slipped the gag under my chin. "What the fuck is going on? Really? You're still not getting this? Don't you read the newspaper? My lovers have been all over the front page for months now. Half the police have been out hunting for the remains." "Oh no." "Oh yes. I prowl around bars for losers like you and bring them back for a little fun." She bit her bottom lip, all seductive. "Anyway, enough foreplay, finger or toe." "What?" Using the bolt cutters, she snapped the air, inches away from my face. "Finger or toe? Please. I won't breathe a word about any of this. Not even the bull." Cold metal jaws dropped onto my crotch. "If you don't decide in the next 5 seconds, I'm taking something else." 5, 4, 3, 2. The cutters clamped around my shriveled genitalia, trapping them inside a squeezing vice grip of pain. "TOE," I screamed, loud enough to stir the bats up in the rafters. "Toe, toe, toe." There. Was that so difficult? As those powerful fangs released my nether region, my chest unclenched slightly. This relief was short-lived, though, because the cutters soon fastened around my baby toe. Shauna looked up from my foot and said, "By the way, I lied before. This is my favorite part." I squeezed my eyes shut, tight. "Here we go." And this little piggy went wee, all the way ho. Above our heads the bulb sputtered and died. Startled, I screamed for as long as I had breath. Only once I'd completely drained my lungs did Alice said, "Would you fuck up already?" She pulled the cord several times. No joy. Bloody generator, fecking thing goes all the time. I've gotta go restart it manually, you wait here. She dropped the cutters on the table, slid open a barn door, and disappeared outside into the shadows. Helpless as an insect caught in a spider's web, I flexed my muscles, thrashed against my restraints, the rope biting deep into my flesh. The best I could manage was a shimmy from side to side. It was hopeless. Suddenly, footsteps. Oh fuck. Now a stammering mess, I choked out a feeble, "Please, let me go, please." "Shut the fuck up," a voice whispered, "or you'll get us both killed." Wait. That didn't sound like Alice. Silhouetted against the pale moonlight, my tormentor stepped back into the barn, crossed the space, and pulled the cord. Sorry about that. Now, where were we? Light flooded the room, illuminating a masked figure standing directly behind Alice. In its right hand, there was a huge knife. My eyes must have shot open wider than dinner plates because, registering my reaction, Alice spun around just in time to see the blade come down and a fierce, shining arc plunged into her chest. Above the lacy bra, disappearing right up to the handle. Both Alice and Shauna fell backward, colliding with the workbench on their way to the floor. Tools went scattering in every direction and the bench flipped up on its side and set the bulb swinging, which created this horrible strobe effect. Although Shauna landed on top, her opponent had a serious strength advantage. They grabbed each other's hair and jabbed thumbs in their eyes and prevented the other from grabbing the tools scattered along the floor. This all played out in slideshow format each time the bulb swooped over our heads. Wanting to help but unable to break loose, I rocked from side to side, steadily building momentum. At last the chair reached the point of inertia, teetered on two legs, and then toppled sideways. Alice and Shauna rolled toward me and stopped, the former having established dominance despite the knife lodged in her chest. She was a tough old bird all right. Using my chin for leverage, I wormed my way toward them until my skull came within inches of Alice's bare foot. Alice pinned Shauna's neck down while her free hand grabbed a hammer. She held it high above her head. Before the finishing blow arrived, though, I craned my neck and sunk my teeth into her foot. As she bellowed out a shriek, my dearly beloved slithered out from beneath those powerful hips and kicked her opponent backwards, over me. As Alice struggled to right herself, her legs all tangled up with my chair, Shauna wrestled the hammer from her and brought it down with a resounding thud. Her opponent spat out a mouthful of blood intermixed with teeth fragments. One more blow, to the forehead this time, and her goose was cooked. She lay flat beside me, her body going wild with spasms as the bulb ran out of steam and settled in place. With a deep grunt, Shauna pulled herself up and righted my chair. "Are you okay?" I said, spitting to rid my mouth of the vinegary aftertaste of unwashed foot. "How did you find me?" I asked, still breathless. "Laptop tracker." "How'd you meet her?" She gestured at the now motionless corpse. "Bar." She nodded, then sighed. "Look, Alan, whatever else you might be thinking right now, I love you. I'm going to let you go, but you can't do anything stupid. Remember, your DNA's all over Ronan's place, and now we've got this mess to worry about. So long as you keep your mouth shut, I'll make all of this disappear. We can talk things out in a few days, somewhere public if you prefer. But if you go to the police, you'll screw this up for both of us." Seeing no other choice, I said, "Fine." She reached forward and hugged me. It flooded my body with an odd mixture of terror and joy. It took 5 minutes for Shauna to work my restraints loose. Every so often she'd glance around at the manure and animal turds scattered about and mutter, "Disgusting." Finally free, I left without another word. And that brings us to now. I can't go to the police, otherwise, they might implicate me for Ronan's murder, and Shauna took the laptop, so I've got no evidence. Not to mention the fact my story sounds completely ridiculous. So if anybody has any suggestions, I'd love to hear them.